Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Silect Software's presentation on Advanced Management Pack Authoring. My name is Randy Rafi, and I'll be presenting a few slides and then turning things over to Mike Sargent, who will be introducing our new application in authoring tools, MP Author Professional. Today, we'll also be talking about some very special pricing we have available for MP Studio and the new product. A little bit about Silect Software. We were founded in 2003. We're one of the original founding members of the System Center Alliance. We're also a gold application development partner. Our solutions include compliance tools, authoring and reporting solutions for System Center and OMS. Those products include the High Trust Compliance Pack, MP Author, the free authoring tool. We'll be adding one more application to this list today, MP Author Professional, and it fits nicely between MP Author and MP Studio. MP Studio is a full lifecycle management tool, and it includes all the capabilities of MP Author Professional. CP Studio is a baseline authoring tool, and you can use that to author baselines for SCCM. Our services include custom development for System Center, so things like management packs and baselines, as well as some extensions to System Center or our applications, including MP Studio. We also offer services in OMS, Power BI, and Azure. Here's a peek at some of our customers worldwide. We have well over 5,000 users of MP Author, and here are a few of those companies. Perhaps your company is on there as well. We do have several customers joining us today. A little bit about MP Author if you're not familiar with the free tool. Number one, it is free, and it's designed to help IT pros develop their own management packs for in-house applications that you've developed. Perhaps you've purchased applications from vendors who do not supply management packs, or maybe you want to customize some existing management packs. MP Author is a wizard-driven application. We pre-populate most of the settings that you can also modify, so even right down to having pre-configured names for rules and monitors. So with these wizards, you can create and configure your own discoveries and targets, as well as rules, monitors, and vendor knowledge. Now, a little bit about MP Author Professional. Of course, it contains everything in MP Author, as well as some new advanced authoring capabilities. These include the ability to create a new class. Also, today we'll be introducing a completely new advanced authoring feature, and that's support for SNMP-based management packs. So the ability to create an SNMP target. You can also create new relationships. In terms of monitors, for advanced authoring, you can create process monitors, roll-up monitors, which include aggregate and dependency monitors, as well as two-state, two-probe, and two-state, two-trap monitors for your SNMP management packs. For rules, you can create probe event and probe perf rules, as well as trap event and trap alert rules. Once again, MP Author Professional leverages the same wizard-driven designer that you've come to know and love in MP Author, and it's got pre-populated and modifiable settings, including the names for all the elements that you create. So with the MP Author Professional, you can create and configure discoveries, targets, rules, and monitors for Windows, and also now for SNMP devices. Just like to take a quick second, draw your attention to the bottom line here. We have special introductory pricing. This is available until August 31st, so you can get your copy of MP Author Professional for $9.95 per user. Additionally, there is no charge for the first year's maintenance if you purchase before the end of August 31st. Okay, MP Studio for Operations Manager, well, guess what? It includes all the capabilities of MP Author Professional Plus. So a little bit about that. Plus, it's lifecycle management capabilities, from doing simple reporting and analysis to automating the documentation and having audit history reports delivered by email, management pack reports, etc. So rich documentation that includes information about the configured overrides. You can also do complete override management, from creating overrides for individual elements to what we refer to as bulk override management. So if you want to implement a standard setting for something like auto resolve, you could apply that override and create it for dozens or hundreds of monitors at the same time. So that's bulk override management. We also have management pack version control. MP Studio uses a SQL backend, and that allows you to have backup copies, which means you can also roll back to earlier versions as you add new copies of any management packs. So you're authoring, and that new management pack that you're authoring is changing. We'll maintain those versions, but we'll also seamlessly track all those changes. And then you can automate an audit history report. So that's very cool. You can also run the workflow report in MP Studio, and this will give you detailed information about what's running on any given agent, including the discoveries, rules, monitors, and will show you the overrides that have been configured for any of those elements. Last but not least, MP Studio has the ability to test management packs. You can test a management pack that's not installed in a management group. You can run that test against any server or multiple servers on your network, including production systems. Pull that data back, perf_mon data, event data, and registry information. Compare that to the configuration of your management pack and overrides in real time, and be able to determine which rules and monitors are going to create the noise. And then you tune using the override management piece to customize the overrides and reduce the alert volume. Okay, once again, special introductory pricing available until August 31st. You're looking at $19.95 per user. And once again, if you purchase before the end of August, you'll get the first year's maintenance. Typically, that'll cost you an extra 20%. But if you purchase before the end of August, you'll get that first year's maintenance at no charge. Okay, so as always, if you'd like a one-on-one demo, you can reach out and email sales@Silect, or you can email myself. I'll post my email address in the chat window, so you'll have that. Just a couple of other notes before I hand it over to Mike for presentation. We do have it within the GoToWebinar applet. You can submit questions. We do have a team joining us today from Silect who are here to help answer questions. And any questions we can't answer here on the call today, we'll send an email out with a response to those questions afterwards. So thank you very much for your patience going through those slides. And Michael, I am going to make you the presenter.
And there we go. Thank you, Randy. Randy, what date is the SNMP Webcast next week? I've got it in front.
I do have it in front of me. So it is June 22nd at 11 a.m. I'll send a registration link around later in the session, okay?
Okay, just so it's obvious, we're doing another webcast next week, specifically and entirely on SNMP authoring. So of course you're all welcome to join us there. Good afternoon, folks. We'll be talking today about MP Author Pro, showing some of the new features. We'll get into demonstration of a number of the features. We won't be able to show all of them, so let's just quickly go through, and I'll enumerate what the advanced features are that MP Author Professional provides over MP Author, and then we'll get into it a little more. We now have the ability to create classes without a discovery, relationships between those classes, and dependency monitors for those classes. That's useful for building a health model. We'll talk about that just a little bit more. We have an aggregate monitor, which allows you to roll up alerts from unit monitors and actually from other aggregate monitors. And we'll demonstrate that one in some detail. We have a process monitor, which allows you to monitor to ensure that a specific process is running all the time and the correct number of them. You may have a minimum of 3 or so and a maximum to make sure that things aren't running away. And you can also monitor to make sure that a process isn't running, and we'll be demonstrating that as well. But the big news for version 7, of course, is our SNMP support. We're going to be going through that in a lot of detail. We have the ability to create a target, that's class and discovery, and to use that class for probe monitors, trap monitors, probe event rules, probe performance rules, and trap event and alert rules. And I'll discuss some of those terms a little bit later. So let's get into a demonstration quickly here. I'm going to create a new management pack. I'm going to call it Silect.Windows. I'll be creating a second management pack when we do the SNMP stuff, simply because it's just generally a better idea to keep Windows stuff separated out from SNMP stuff. You don't need to put all of your rules, monitors, etc., all in one management pack. It's actually a pretty good idea to keep them separated into logical groups. So in this demonstration, I'll put the Windows stuff I'm going to demonstrate in a Windows management pack, and I'll have a different management pack for the SNMP stuff. You can put them all in one. You probably don't want to. We'll be saving that to the file system here. And here's where I get to choose which version of references. So because we have a SCOM 2012 R2 infrastructure, I'm choosing Windows here, SCOM 2012 R2, and it puts in the correct references. I can, of course, choose other versions of the reference libraries or the references that are necessary for SNMP, but for this demo we're going to use Windows R2. And we have the ability to create, through this wizard, single server and distributed applications, but I'm just going to create an empty management pack and we'll fill it in ourselves. And so that quickly, we've created a new management pack. Now I'm just going to go through the menus here to show you some of the things that are possible here. Targets are generally classes and discoveries, but underneath that we also have some additional things like groups and the simple class case. We're only going to discuss class, but we will get into the SNMP target in great detail later. Going along with classes, we have relationships, and with Professional and, of course, MP Studio, you can create relationships. Under monitors, we have the ability to create the process monitor, and we'll be demonstrating that one, the SNMP probe and trap monitors, as well as the dependency monitors and aggregate monitors. And we're not going to demonstrate dependency monitor, but we will be demonstrating aggregate monitor. And I guess the other thing to look at is rules. We have SNMP probe event rules, probe performance rules, and trap event and alert rules. And I'll go through some of those terminology just a little bit later. Because we're not going to deal with the class, the relationship, and the dependency monitor much today, I'm going to recommend you look at Brian Wren's Microsoft Virtual Academy course on authoring management packs. It's an excellent and very comprehensive course. I can highly recommend it. So let's go through, and we're going to create first a monitor. And then I'm just going to use the service monitor because it's a fairly fast but also quite representative monitor, and we'll just look and see the general tone of our wizards, and then we'll do an aggregate monitor that rolls up a couple of service monitors. So all of our wizards generally start with an introduction page, and almost all have the ability here to specify a computer or a device that we're going to query to get live information from, so we can help you pre-populate things so you're not having to type in things from memory or copy and paste. Most of our wizards also allow you to do a manual selection. I'm not going to get into that. It requires a lot of typing. There's a lot of room for mistakes, but if you have the case where you can't actually physically connect to a machine to download the information, you can still go through the manual steps on almost all of the wizards. So in this monitor, we select a service to monitor. I'm just going to click one because it's a demonstration. We can select the target and the parent monitor here, and we'll just note that I'm selecting availability here. For services, Windows Computer is usually a good choice for a target. This is a standard control we have where we put in the identification of the monitor. So there's a name, a display name, option, and whether it's enabled or not. We try to fill these things in general as much as we can. The name is the management pack name, followed by the target name, followed by the service name here, and the display name is simply a variation of that, where we leave off the management pack name. You'll get very familiar with this control. You can change anything in here you want, but we don't need to. This is the health state. So if the service is running, then the health state is healthy. If it's not running, that's considered a warning. That's a pretty good default, so we're just going to leave that for the time being. Here we have the ability to generate an alert. So if the health state goes into a warning state, we're going to generate an alert. We'll automatically resolve the alert when we come back into a healthy state. So if the service starts again, we can specify the alert name and a display name for it. I'm not going to change either of those. There's a priority for the alert and the severity of the alert, which for monitors is typically match monitor health, but you can change that if you need to. Down here in the description, this is what will be displayed in the console, and if you're not familiar with it, all this information between dollar signs will be replaced with properties from the actual events, etc., that have happened that have raised the alert. So in particular, that would fill it in with the name of the service, and this next one with principal name would fill in the principal name of the computer that the service failed on. Because of course typing that stuff is horrible, we've provided some flyouts here under data, target, host, and I didn't select a hosted class, so it's not showing up there, but group. So if you want to put in things like the description of the service that isn't running, it's as easy as that to do it. You can also put in target things here. For instance, we have the principal name, but let's say we need to know the NetBIOS computer name. You can also add that. You can type in the other information as well here. I can type here and just make it look exactly as you want. Finally, all of our wizards end up with a summary page where we describe everything that's about to happen to let you review it before we go back. So there's the description. There's our target, the parent monitor that we're going to use, the service and the display name of the service that we're going to run, the health state information, and the information about the alert settings. So when I click Finish here, we've created the monitor, and I'm just going to narrow that down a bit. Just a quick reminder, you'll note here that under Alert Settings, it shows that we are generating an alert with that monitor. Now, because I want to do an aggregate roll-up and demonstrate that, I'm just going to create a second service monitor as quickly as I can here. So I'm just going to click through this as much as possible. And done, there's our second monitor, and it also is generating alerts. An aggregate monitor is used to roll up monitors so that when the monitor goes into an alert state, you get a summary. So in this case, we have two services, each of which will raise an alert. But it may be in our situation that we really don't want that. We don't care which service has failed. We only want to know that one or both have failed, so we only want one higher level alert. And an aggregate monitor allows us this information up. So the aggregate roll-up monitor wizard is actually quite a sophisticated wizard. Sorry, I'm bragging a bit because I wrote it. It actually allows you to roll up existing unit monitors, and you can do it for any of the four standard configurations here: availability, configuration, performance, or security. And you can also specify what algorithm to use for roll-up. It's typically worst of, but best of is given here. Now, I only have two monitors, and they're all both under availability, so I'm not going to change this. But if we did, and we had more unit monitors to roll up, it can actually create 4 aggregate monitors and do all the proper roll-up for us. We specify the target for the monitor, and we're using Windows Computer. That's the same target that the unit monitors are, and that's an important thing. It has to be the same. The description again, we've got a pretty good name here, so I'm just going to leave that. Here's where we have the ability to generate an alert for the monitor, and you'll recognize this again, of course. With an aggregate monitor, you don't have a whole lot of information about what's being rolled up because it doesn't have to all be services that are rolling up. It can be any type of monitor. So there's really no common data that can be reported, but we do still have all the information here so that we can put in, the principal name and all these other properties if we want to. Here's where we select which monitors get rolled up. So within each category here, and we had selected availability in that first page, so it selected all the available unit monitors in the availability category. We can select which ones we want to include in our aggregate. For this demonstration, of course, I want to do both of them. We also have another choice here that since we created an alert for this aggregate, we have the choice of disabling the alert for the selected monitors. So this is a case where we only want alerts from the aggregate. We don't want the alerts anymore from the unit monitors. I'm just going to click that. And here's our summary. We have, what our category is, our aggregation, the target, the monitors that we're going to roll up here, the alerts will be disabled, and our new alert settings. So when I hit finish here, that quickly it had done it. So this, I'm just going to resize this guy, is our new aggregate monitor here. And let me just hide a category here. You'll note here that the aggregate has the alert settings, but the alert settings that we were looking at before for the 2 unit monitors are no longer there. And if we look over here in the property grid, we can see that. This is the properties for the aggregate, and you can see it's got the alert context, the alert message here, but the other 2 don't. There's no longer any information there. So it did everything we needed in aggregating, all in a few seconds. So that's generally it for the aggregate monitor. The next thing we're going to look at is the process monitor. Process monitor is used in a case where, actually let me cancel out of this just for 1 second here. We have wizards that will allow you to create monitors to monitor databases. So we'll go out and do queries of databases, and there's a lot of information in there, but you can actually run a query or just contact it. You can concern yourself with how quickly it responds, all those sorts of things. You can look at Windows events and performance counters. Service we already looked at. You can do website where it'll actually go out and query a website and raise alerts if it doesn't respond in time. We also have a script monitor which lets you create a script in JavaScript, VBScript, or PowerShell, and you can pretty much do anything there. And process monitor is used when you have a case where you want to monitor that a process is running, but it's not a service, because a service monitor may work better there. That a process is running, there's a minimum number of those processes running and a maximum number, or that the process is not running. So you may have, I don't know, a test process that should not be running on a production server, so you want to ensure that it's not using resources. So again, we're able to query a machine. I could select other machines on the network here, but we'll just use the local machine. And from that, we display a list of all of the processes that are running on this machine. I'm going to select HCA. Nobody's guessed what that is yet, but it's critical to me. And we can specify the parent monitor. I think availability is a pretty good choice here, because if HCA isn't running, the availability of things around here are not right. So we'll leave that. The process monitor creates a class, and it discovers it, and then it monitors that class. So this is the identification of the class, or the target. This is the identification of the discovery and the schedule for the discovery. And a discovery is typically set to run once a day. This is not how often we'll query for the process. We'll see that just a little bit later. But once a day for a discovery is typical. We have the identification for the monitor. And then we get into the health aspects here. And so in this case, we can specify whether the monitor is running or not running. If it's running, we can specify a minimum number of processes and a maximum number of processes so we can ensure that things aren't running away. Minimum number of processes, maybe you have 3 because they have redundancy in case one fails, or a loading. Your reasons are your reasons, of course. Maximum is to ensure that things aren't running away. I think we've all seen systems where there's 100 copies of something that's running and it's not supposed to be, and we've all run out of memory. The entry down here is how often we check for these processes. So every 60 seconds, it'll enumerate the processes and check to see whether they're in this range that we've specified. Because processes sometimes stop and restart themselves and recycle in an orderly fashion, we don't generate an alert immediately if something is outside of this range. By default, it has to be outside of that range for 5 minutes. Now you can decrease that value, but it has to be at least greater than or equal to how often we check. I'd recommend probably double as a minimum, so that if we check once and process isn't running, we'll check a second time before we raise the alert. It just saves a lot of noise. And we specify the conditions. So if the process is running, we're in a healthy health state. If a process is not running, it's a warning condition. You can change those. No problem at all. We have the ability to generate an alert here. So if we get the warning health state, which means that these processes are not running in the proper numbers, then we can raise an alert. We automatically resolve it if the processes go back to the correct numbers, names, priorities, that sort of information. And we do have information here that we can fill in. Target information here is the process name. You know, one of the properties is process name. We have display name of the process as well. And of course the host is the system that it's running on, so we can put in things like the principal name of the computer and some additional text if we wanted to. And with all that, we get to review. We can, of course, go back and change things if we want to. Let's change the priority from normal to high here. And when we look in the alert settings here, and I have to scroll for that, we'll note that the priority is now high. And we click Finish, and it's done. And so there's our new availability monitor. Sorry, the process monitor. Yes, an HCA process availability monitor. And I think that pretty much covers what I want to talk about with process monitors. So the next thing we're going to look at is our SNMP support. And for that, I'm going to create a new management pack. We'll call it Silect Devices. We'll select SNMP for SCOM 2012 R2, and we'll create our management pack. MP Author Professional, like MP Author and MP Studio, is multiple documents. So of course you can switch back and forth between different management packs and other windows as you choose. I'm just going to describe some of the terminology for SNMP before we get into it. I know I mentioned probes and traps earlier. A probe is when Operations Manager actively goes out and asks the device for its current state and reacts to it. A trap is when the device informs Operations Manager, typically of a state change, and Operations Manager reacts to it. The other terminology we're going to need to get into is MIBs. MIBs stands for Management Information Block, and these are standard defined documents that describe the capabilities of a device, or the subset of capabilities of a device, because the typical device is defined by perhaps a dozen or more MIB files, and there's standard ones that all devices or most devices would implement, and then there are device-specific MIBs which define the unique characteristics of a device, and we'll be going through this in a little bit more detail. So having described all of that, let's create our discovery. So under targets, we're going to create an SNMP discovery. Now, we don't have a device already loaded here, so I'm going to come into this wizard and we're going to define one. So I can type in the IP address of a device on our network and a community name for it. And you'll note this is a community name, it's not a password, it's transmitted over the wire in plain text, so there's really no reason to put dots in instead of showing you the thing. Plus about probably half the SNMP devices in the world are using public. And the next thing we can do is we can validate this. And so this is where the device, and we try to contact this IP address using this community name to ensure we can get it. And we filled in the name here, and that was the name that was returned by that device. If I save this, it appears on this list here so that we can select later. And I'll just create one more here very quickly. And we'll validate that one, and the name for that one really is awful. So we'll change it and we'll save that one. And we're actually going to use this one as our choice. That's my local router here. It's just a little bit faster. It doesn't have to go across a VPN or anything like that. Then in Discovery, we have these two lists here. And these are the things that we want to query from the device for the discovery. So we have items that we'll query to identify our device so that we uniquely create the class for the devices we are interested in, and additional properties. And we'll see those in a bit more detail when we go into them. I'm going to browse that device, and at this point it's gone out to that device and it's asked it for all of the variables that are available on that device. I'm just going to drag this warning down for a second and we'll discuss that a bit more. You'll note here under the name column, it knows the names of many of these things, okay? So for instance, if you notice this router 9664-4E, that's the system name. It's a very standardized thing. What it actually uses when it's talking is this OID string here, 136.121.15.0. Those are almost impossible for anybody to understand as far as I'm concerned. You can't remember them. So of course we try to use the names like sysname as much as possible. The warning here is telling me that right now MP Author Professional does not know how to interpret over 1,000 of the variables that were returned, and they're returned from two different enterprises. An enterprise is a company name, you know, like Cisco or Alcatel, and we'll just see that in a bit more detail. And so if I click this and we scroll down, we'll see that we get into a list of things that are unknown. We have the OID here. We have a value, but we don't know what the value means, and we don't have a name for it. So at this point, I'm going to click on this lovely OIDs button here, and we come up here to our Manage MIBs folder, or Manage MIBs dialog. And in this case, it's told us that we have two enterprises that this device uses that we don't have the values for, the MIBs for. So 2021 is UC Davis. Now this dialog allows all the maintenance you need here. I'll just demonstrate renaming something here. We'll just call that just UC Davis. And we can use the Add Update MIBs button to select. Now I've already downloaded these MIBs, so I'll talk about that in just a bit more detail here. And those MIBs were imported and compiled into an index that we use to look things up. We also need to do the same thing for the net SNMP stuff. Done. If you can get specific OIDs for your device from the device manufacturer, it's just generally a good advice to go to the original source to get things so you know that they're not incorrect or out of date. If you can't get them from your vendor, OIDView, and we've got a link down here, is a really great source for them. They have a link here to download MIBs. They have almost 7,000 unique MIBs online here. You can search by vendor or enterprise number and download them as much as you want. This is a great site. I highly recommend it. But if possible, get the MIBs from your vendor. So once we close that dialog, we go back out and we requery that device. And at this point, we now know, because we've got all the MIBs, all of these things and what they mean. And so previously this would have shown up as unknown. Now it shows up, gives us a name here, which is horrendously long. We won't worry about that too much. So let's just go to something that's a little, doesn't matter. We also have the description. This comes out of the MIB, so it tells us what it means and its status and its parent, things like that. So now that we have all the MIBs, we can interpret things. For a discovery, you typically use the system object ID. And this value that's been interpreted partially here as enterprises.9. 9 is the enterprise number for Cisco. They registered that with the IANA, the International Assigned Numbers Authority. And then they're allowed to assign any numbers below that. So their 6.1.23.1.11.1.1 is their OID beneath the enterprise that specifically identifies this particular type of router or family of routers, where the SNMP information is basically the same for all devices in that family. I'm going to add that because that's all I need for my discovery here. We can also specify some properties, so we can go out to the device, and while we're creating the class and discovering it, we can include additional properties. So I'm just going to include 2 of them for laughs. We do allow you to search here, so I'm just going to search for forward. And this is a standard flag which says something is a device that's forwarding. The description describes it in more detail, but typically anything with an interface that routes has this forwarding flag set true. I'm just including it for a demonstration here. But there's, of course, you saw almost 2,000 different variables you could be querying there if you need to. This is the target properties that we created. These are the properties on the class, and while you can change the names and the type, etc., there's generally no need to. We have a great description of them. We got that out of the MIB file, another reason to ensure you have the correct MIBs. We identify our class, and we don't have a good, consistent way to get a reasonable name for a device through SNMP. You saw earlier when I added this device, it came back with a router and a couple of hex digits. I haven't been able to find a really good way of consistently getting a good name. So I'm going to have a chat with Ian about that. So we've got our names, and it automatically should have set the display name here. We have a base class. Now this is a router, so I'm just going to go to S because I know that S is the router is the last thing before S, so we'll just select router for the base class. We have the name for our discovery, and that's a perfectly adequate name, so I'm not going to change that. The target here. When you register an SNMP device with Operations Manager, it will go out and discover and create nodes. Now we're trying to refine that, so we have a class which is targeted against nodes. So for initial discovery of any device, you'll probably want to use node as the target. And here we have our expression that we use when discovering it. And in this case, I just want to ensure that the system object ID equals that string that we were able to browse from the device. You could add additional information there. We'll show the expressions in a bit more detail later on, but for the time being, that's more than sufficient. Our schedule on how often we'll run the discovery, once a day for discovery is usually a good choice. And then we have our summary. So this is what will happen when we create the class in the discovery. So here we go. And like that, it's done. So let's just look at what's briefly available for monitors and rules before we get into what we can display here. I seem to have about 10 more minutes to go. Okay. So we have a monitor that does 2 probes. They can be the same, but they can be different ones, and a 2-trap monitor. The difference is, of course, probe is Operations Manager actively probing the device, where trap is the device informing Operations Manager something. We'll be generating a trap monitor in a little while, so let's come back to that later. Under rules, we have a probe event rule where the Operations Manager goes out, queries the device, and creates an event in the operational database or the data warehouse. Our probe performance rule where Operations Manager will go out and get performance information and store that. And we also have a trap event/alert rule. That normally creates events, but it can also generate an alert, and I hope we'll have time to look at that as well. Just quickly, because we're not going to look at the probe event and alert, the event and performance rules, if you create them, and here's some examples, Operations Manager, this is live data coming in where we've used MP Author Professional rules, and we have this information coming in. So we have this information coming in, that address that it was just showing down there is one of my devices, so I have this coming in only as information. The rest of these are warnings about intrusion detection from some device that we don't know. And as you can see, there's a lot of them. You know, that's what, 15 of them in the last 15 minutes sort of thing. So if you're not aware, your systems are under constant attack. For the performance counters, and I'm just going to change that time range here to bring it down to 2 days. It's a little crowded there. We have two objects that are being reported here, and two counters. The blue one, the green one here that you can see is the ICOMP ping response time. An operations manager is automatically reporting that because it knows that we have a node device. The second one was created, this is the CPU usage on our firewall. And it's been done with a rule that I created using MP Author Professional, and so it monitors our CPU performance, which looks like we're in pretty good shape there. It's never above 50%, and only then it's spiking, so that's pretty good. Having said that, let's go in and create our monitor. So we're going to create a two-state, two-trap monitor. We'll be again looking at my local router. We'll select the traps. You don't have to select any particular traps, in which case the monitor would receive all traps. You'll want to be a bit cautious about that. You have to, if you do specify a first trap and you don't specify a second trap, then the same trap would be used for the second trap for a, so the first trap would put it into an unhealthy state, the second trap would be used to put it into a healthy state. In the example I'm going to show you, I actually have two different traps to use. So we're going out, querying the device, trying to figure out what traps are here. IF link down is a standard trap that comes in when a link, an interface, goes down in a device. So we're going to use that as our first trap, and we'll use the complement of that, which is the link up trap, for our second trap. We're targeting our device, and that's the one we've created, so that's fine. This wouldn't be performance, this would be availability if a link is down. In this case, imagine we have a branch office, we have a VPN connecting both ends, and we need to know if that VPN connection goes down. And that is, in fact, the specific case I'm looking at here. When our trap comes in, it includes some additional parameters, and so we can filter on that. The link down and link up traps come in for any link that goes up and down. So what we're going to do is we're going to filter. If you look at these top 5 variables, these all come in with the trap. The first two are standards. It's the uptime of the device, which is pretty useless, and the trap OID, and we know what the OID is. But what we really want to look at is this index value. This tells us which interface came in, and I only want this monitor to respond to interface 3, which I know is the VPN connection. And for our second trap, we actually want the same thing. I want to go back to a healthy state, but only if we're concerning ourselves with the VPN connection. So here we have our conditions, which shows our expressions and the health state. Now the default health state for the first condition is success, but I selected the link down trap here. So I'm going to make that a warning. So that automatically brings the second condition to the health state of success. And we have some yellow text down here just to remind you of that. We can generate an alert for this trap monitor, of course. I'm going to just fill in just a bit of information here. Interface, and from our data, we'll select the index of the interface. It is now in state, and we'll choose the operational status of the device. And we'll use that for our alert. We could fill in additional information there, but that's sufficient for our demonstration. And then, of course, we have our summary information here. You'll be familiar with most of this, but here's our SNMP trap. We're looking for link down where the interface index is 3. That's the VPN connection, in which case if it's down we want a warning, and if link up for that same interface, then we're going to be successful health. The ignore version here I'll just touch on very briefly. Some devices, even though they're SNMP version 2 devices, will return traps as version 1, in which case if you're looking for a version 2 trap, Operations Manager will ignore it. So typically we just ignore the version number and we'll accept a trap from that device regardless of the version. This seems to be good advice since we've made it pretty much the default. And then of course we have our alert settings here. And that's all it took. And just one thing I want to point out here is how little typing I had to do to create that entire monitor. Apart from the alert description, and I guess the name, I didn't type anything. So that's in pretty good shape here, and I still have just a couple of minutes, so we're going to quickly create a performance rule. We're going to have to rip through that. So this is a probe performance rule where we go out and probe the device. I'm going to query and see what's out there. I know that we have a CPU idle counter that I can return, so let's search for that. And I spelled idle wrong. So here's our idle. It gives us a description here. Again, I'm in a bit of a hurry, so we'll continue on with that. We'll just add that. This is our information that we'll be using for the performance object when it's stored. We use the counter name that we already selected, which is a pretty good choice. We want to add the performance samples to the data warehouse, so we'll stick with that. We want to target the device we've been working with, so that's a good choice. We have a pretty good name for the rule, so we're going to stick with that. And we'll run the rule every 15 minutes, and we'll create it. And there we go. And now we have a rule which is pretty much the same as this one I was showing up here, where we're looking at the current CPU utilization. For that device, we have one which is utilization, so 0 is good, 100% is bad. The one I just created is the opposite. It's the idle time, where 100% idle would be good and 0% is bad. But apart from that, it's almost exactly the same. So on that note, I think I'm ready to hand it back to Randy. I'd like to thank you again, and a reminder that we will be having an SNMP webcast next week. And of course, you're all welcome. We'll be concentrating only on SNMP during that one. Thanks again, folks.
Thank you very much, Mike. That was awesome, as usual. Appreciate all the good stuff there. I hope everybody found that interesting and useful. The SNMP authoring is all brand new, but so is MP Author Professional. So, by all means, if you would like to know more, we will have a survey at the end of the session today, and just be sure to check yes. We'll do a follow-up with everyone, of course. We will send a link to the recording, and I'm just going to take the last 5 to 10 minutes to share with you a little bit more about how to extend in your development of management packs into using MP Studio, and why you would want to do that. So to begin with, we're currently looking at a page on our website, and this is a comparison of the 3 products. Okay, so you can visit this link anytime. We did make it available in the email that went out, the invitation for today's session, but you can see quickly here that we have the free product MP Author.
There, the last was,
sorry, Mike?
You faded there. The last I heard was email goes out.
Yes, okay. So there will be a link to the recording. That'll go out in a follow-up email. And in the invitation for today's session, there was a link to this comparison document. So you can see here that with MP Author Professional, you get quite a bit more features. And then with MP Studio, you get the full lifecycle management capabilities. But all of MP Author is included in MP Author Professional, and all of MP Author Professional is included with MP Studio. Okay, I'm just going to take a few minutes and show some of those features to you, introduce those features, and here is MP Studio. And one of the things I first want to point out is if you already do own MP Studio, and many of you on today's call do, if you want to use the authoring feature, you can simply right-click on a project folder in your store database and start by creating a new management pack. Okay, and that's how you get the wizard launched. I've already got a management pack here that I've started, and I'm just going to choose View Edit. I won't do any authoring in here, but I do just want to make sure you're aware of how to access those capabilities. So just like you saw in Mike's demo, right-click on monitors. Here's the list of monitors available. Now, if it's not clear already, the advanced capabilities only available in Professional and in MP Studio include the process monitor, for one, the SNMP stuff, both monitor types, okay, and then there's the dependency roll-up monitor and the aggregate roll-up monitor. These are advanced features. So those will be disabled in the MP Author free version. Let's have a quick look at some other things in here. If I right-click on targets, here is the create new class. So that is not available in the free version of MP Author. Okay, SNMP target, again, that is not available in the free version. This is an advanced feature only available in Professional. Let's take a quick look at rules as well. And you can see here the top three, those are available in the free version, but the bottom three for creating SNMP rules, those are advanced authoring features. Okay, so refer to that comparison sheet if you want to focus in on the differences. I won't be doing any development here, but I do want to show you some of the other features that are available. Number one, if you make some changes to a management pack that you've authored, and maybe I'll just try a quick change here. I'll pick monitors and I'm going to randomly select one of these, and then over on the right side you can see there's a properties view edit. Anything there that's bold I can edit. There are other ways to edit as well. You can right click and go into the XML and make changes there as well. You can right click at the root of that MP. If you want to see the XML for the entire management pack, you can make some changes in there. Some other things you can do in here as well, sealing your management pack, running the best practices analyzer, etc. But I want to make a quick change. Let's see, I'm just going to modify the enabled status here. I'll make a random selection, and next I need to save that change. So I just click on the Save MP. That'll put a new version of this management pack in the store folder. This is a preview of the change. We've incremented the version. This is definitely a change. We can see some details down here on what was changed. It was the enabled status. There's the previous value, new value, and I can add some notes in here as well. You might want to put a work order number or a reason for a change or why something was added or deleted. And that's a preview of the audit history because I'm adding a new copy into the store database. And I'll just go ahead and save that. And now you can see on the left-hand side, this is my project folder, my sandbox folder. Here's the management pack I just edited, and we can see even here, we can see that there were 2 changes to that management pack. But if I want to now set up some automation, I can choose to automate or schedule a report, have that sent out by email to any recipients that I've added into MP Studio. So that's one option. Let's just quickly take a look at this report. And I've already grouped by a few fields to customize the view to make it easy to find the changes that I made or a coworker made. So if you've got a team authoring management packs, different resources could be involved. Maybe you've hired a consultant, you want to see the work that they did. Using MP Studio, you can run the audit history report and really stay on top of those changes. Maybe you want to run a report. For example, here are some changes to display name. Let's find the changes that we've already done some additions in here. So you can now export this using the toolbar button up above, or you can set up that schedule and have the audit history automatically sent to a group. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly show you one more audit history. And this is the audit history for another management pack. And in here, I'm the only one who's been making changes, but I can come in and look at the details of changes that have been made. Whatever they may be, previous and new values will be available in here. So you've got full accountability for changes that you've made. Okay, the next thing I want to do is talk a little bit about documentation. I've mentioned this Export to Excel toolbar button. That documents the current view, and it'll have that same grouping that we're looking at here, changed by, reason, and changed on. But if I want to document a management pack, for example, let's go to the copy of a management pack in my stored database. I can right-click here in order to start documenting a management pack. That can be scheduled as well, so I can have this delivered to management or any stakeholders. If I've got a customer and I'm looking for a competitive edge, I can document the management packs I'm developing for them, the override management packs we're working on. So I can document all of that. Let's have a quick look at this report. I've already generated one. And as you can see, if you just glance at the bottom, there's a separate worksheet for each element. So we can see here in the summary things like references, etc. I'll just share a few of these tabs with you. Here are my rules. Now you might be wondering what the blue shade is. Those are the overrides that have been created for the element directly above. So I can see here in row 4, this particular rule has a single override that's been created, and I can see the configuration of that element. So that's just a rule. Let's take a look at the monitors. Same thing, the blue here represents overrides that have been created for the monitor directly above. One more thing on the spreadsheet I'd like to share with you. If I go to the far right, we can see here's a view of the overrides in their entirety, all the overrides, and I've scrolled to the very last row here. There's a referencing MP name. In other words, these 102 overrides, it shows where they're stored, and I can very quickly tell I've got overrides stored in at least 2 different management packs, probably more. If I scroll down, there's a third one in there. Some are stored in the default management pack. I did that intentionally just so I could demonstrate the fact with MP Studio you can discover where overrides have been stored accidentally. The same view is available in the console as well. Now I have a couple of more features I want to demonstrate, probably take me all of 2 minutes. One of those is a group comparison. So let's have a quick look at the management group comparison. Now this is designed to support your efforts to standardize management pack versions across your management groups. Even if you've got just a lab and a single management group, it'd be nice to know if you've got an old rev of a management pack. If you've got multiple management groups, you could potentially have an old management pack. In a certain case scenario I can tell you about, a client had forgotten to upgrade a management pack in one of many groups, and that management pack was responsible for forwarding alerts to the ticketing system. So they lost visibility in that entire management group because a management pack was out of sequence. With this group comparison, I've already customized the view. So here, for example, we're looking at, I've got several sealed management packs, and many of them are equal. So this middle column here, that's my management group version. And the column just to the left of it, labeled store, shows the version in my store. So those are equal. Here I can see I've got 8 different management packs where I've actually got a newer version available. So if I've just authored a management pack, or I've created an override management pack, or I simply want to update a version of a Microsoft MP, I can see where I need to do that. Right from this report, you can click deploy, and now you can deploy those management packs that you've authored or override management packs that you've tuned. Okay, one more quick feature I'd like to share with you, because I think it's one all MP developers would love to leverage. That's the ability to test a management pack. I'm just going to show you the wizard and describe how this works, and then we'll wrap up. So if you have any last minute questions, be sure to submit those. This test wizard simulates the management pack running against a production server. So I can specify, in this case, I would just go with my local host, but you could specify any server on your network. Now notice on the left-hand side, I've simply right-clicked on a management pack that's in the store database. So this test does not create any alerts in your environment. The management pack doesn't even have to exist in your SCOM environment. Okay, so we click next, and then I configure the duration of a test. So I could test for an hour, a day, a week if I want. An hour is probably more practical. You can delay that start time and then manage the sample rate for collecting event data and perfmon data. So that's all there is to the wizard. If I kick this off, it's going to confirm I've got permission to the servers I'd listed, and it'll start collecting that perfmon data. It'll collect the registry information so I can confirm my discoveries are as expected. And then all that information is compared to the configuration of the management pack, and the resultant set of alerts will show you the 20% of your rules and monitors that'll generate 80% of your alerts. So there's a lot to MP Studio. It would really take a full hour to introduce the features. I suppose what I would ask, if you would like to see a one-on-one demo, I'd be happy to do that for you anytime. We are a couple of minutes now past, 4 minutes past our session time. And on behalf of everyone at Silect Software, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you very much, Mike. And please, if you have a minute, we'd really appreciate it if you would complete the survey. I am going to stop the recording now, but we will stay online for a bit. We still have a bunch of people on, and if you want to submit questions, you can continue to do so. I did submit the registration link in the chat window, and so you can click on that anytime if you would like to register for next week's session on SNMP authoring. Mike will be conducting that session, and it'll focus on the SNMP authoring capabilities. Thank you.